Hello, everybody. Welcome to In Session. My name is Kristen B, and I will be your host for today. Super excited. So, today we're going to be focused on content creation. We're going to explore strategies for standout content in the digital age. And I'm super excited to be joined by our panelists, Stephanie Justa Vessel James. We've got Megan Burt, Stout, and Rebecca Loebe. So I'm so excited to have you guys here with me. Hello, y'all. This is going to be such a great webinar. So yeah, let's start with you, Stout. Feel free to jump on and share a bit about who you are. And yeah, the crowd wants to see you. Or Steph, we can start with you. You can pop your camera back on. You can share with the audience a bit about yourself and your preferred gender pronouns.
Yeah, how's it going? Thanks for having me. My name's Stephanie. I'm originally from Colorado Springs. I am an international artist. I've traveled to 38 countries and counting and performed in just about all of them. I'm a poet and a singer. And yeah, looking forward to our discussion today.
Awesome. Rebecca, are you able to turn your video on? Oh, Stout, let's go with you. Oh, or Rebecca. Incredible. Stout, would you like to tell the audience a bit about who you are and your preferred gender pronouns?
Yes, absolutely. Hey guys, I am Stout. I am from New Haven, Connecticut. Super cold at home. I am a multiple disciplinary artist. So there's so many things that I do, but I started as a musician. I'm a songwriter, I'm a producer, I'm a mother, I'm an activist, and I'm just really passionate about life. And so, yeah, I too, very excited to chat with you guys.
Awesome. If you guys don't already know, this is just, such a great panel. All right, Rebecca, would you like to turn your video on and then share a bit about who you are and your preferred gender pronouns as well?
Hey there, my name is Rebecca Loebe. I am a touring singer-songwriter based in Austin, Texas. Gender pronouns are she, her, and I got my start actually in audio engineering. I got a degree in that from Berklee College of Music up in Boston, and I worked as a recording studio engineer and a Pro Tools editor for several years while I was trying to launch my career as a singer-songwriter. And it turns out that working at a recording studio means you have the keys to a recording studio. So I snuck in there and got my first album recorded, and after that started touring. And once I got a little tiny taste of the road, I just knew that was where I was meant to be. So I spent years sort of struggling doing like 75,000 part-time jobs trying to make music my full-time job. And I did some weird ones. I like chauffeured teenagers and sold beer at football games and taught lessons and did all sorts of stuff until finally in 2010 I released an album that did fairly well on Americana radio. I hit the road, and I just kept adding dates to the tour, and at the end of the year I looked around and realized I haven't had another part-time job in a year. I think I'm a full-time musician now. And I was afraid to say it out loud at first because I didn't want to jinx it, but it's been 10 years now. So I think I can comfortably say that I am a full-time touring singer-songwriter. For the past year of the pandemic, I've been touring from my home studio, but I'm still keeping things going. And that's me in a nutshell.
Love it. In true artist form. You do what you got to do what you love. Absolutely. Love that. Awesome. And last but not least, Megan, are you able to pop your video on and tell us a bit about who you are and your preferred gender pronouns?
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Burt. I'm currently based out of Colorado and have been for a long time, although I tried to make that Brooklyn for about 5 years pre-pandemic. I've been a performing songwriter for 10 plus years, touring all over the States and internationally in Europe. And I guess the last many years I've been producing. I started a redheaded band called Ginger Bomb. I'm mostly just trying to be Rebecca Loebe, so
huge compliment for sure.
So I don't know what more I can say. Just
awesome.
There you go. That's me.
Perfect. That sounds incredible. So you guys, if you don't know yet, I mean, the artists are touring, they're traveling, they are multifaceted, have their hands in so many different things, which makes for some amazing content, let me tell you. So before we dive into all of this juice that we're going to give, we're going to talk about a bit of things that questions that have already come in for the first 45 minutes, and then we'll leave some time at the end for open Q&A. So if you have any questions, we'll go into the Zoom, all the Zoom reminders to let you know how to get your questions in there. So the first thing is going to be, this is a supportive and uplifting space. All right. So we just want to make sure that we keep that in mind as we get into the discussion and as we, pose our questions and as we show love in the chat. Also, please feel free to use the chat to share where you're tuning in from. You guys have already started that. I see Western Canada. You got some incredible things already happening in the chat. So feel free to jump in there. Let us know where you're tuning in from. But be sure to change that little blue bar from panelists to panelists and attendees so we can all see where you guys are tuning in from. Hey, Germany, Scotland, boom, boom, Brooklyn. Yes, awesome. So like I said before, we'll have some time at the end for a Q&A. And so that it doesn't get lost in the sauce in the chat, there's a function at the bottom of your Zoom screen that says Q&A. Pop your questions in there. We're going to do our very best to get to all the questions. If not, we're definitely going to hook you up with some contact information for the lovely panelists if they so choose, so that you can directly ask your questions there if we don't get a chance to cover it. So, and last but not least, you should get a survey at the end of this just to let us know if there are any topics that you guys want us to cover for any upcoming in sessions, and just to let us know, if this was helpful for you, which we hope it will be. So that's my whole spiel. That's all I've got to say before we jump into the questions. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First question is, when you create your content, what is your main goal and when does that change, if it does? So let's start with Stout. What's your main goal when you create your content?
My main goal is that the viewers, the listeners will feel. I want them to feel. So if it's something that I'm, I don't know if I'm dancing or singing, I want them to feel and I want them to really see me. That's really, really important to me, is that my authenticity is always, being expressed. Does it change? Absolutely, because life changes. There's always changes in life. And I am that type of artist. I really reflect the times that I'm in. And then also, maybe sometimes with, that the world is experiencing. So, yeah.
I love that.
I want them to feel. That's the goal.
Yeah. Anybody else have any?
I love that too. I would say, for me, I like to really inspire, similar, right? So like feeling, but just inspire. If you read a lot of captions, I feel like experiences are better shared. So from my journals, from my travels, I love to share different lessons taken away, like whatever that may be, and really inspire people to be their best selves. So that's a big proponent of the content that I post, for sure.
Awesome. Feeling, inspiration. This is why I love y'all feeds. This is speaking to my entire soul. But yeah, any other like different kind of perspectives or echoing what was already said?
I might have a different perspective a little bit. I just in like the spirit of honesty and being real in this panel, like I struggle, my biggest struggle with social media is like, how do I speak to my community in a way where I feel safe too? Because I tend to be a pretty private person, but I want to put content out there that's meaningful at the same time. So I spend a lot of time thinking about like, my very favorite artists, if they, like, I'm a huge Bonnie Raitt fan. Anyone knows who she is. I'm like old school, right? And she's a very private person too. Like, you don't know a lot about her personal life, but when she shares something, I still feel like I'm in a living room with her. So I really try to learn from like my favorite artists and how do they let me in. Like Laura Marling is another person. Like, she seems very private. But when she lets me in, I feel really amazing. Like, I really appreciate her content. So, I'm not like famous like those artists, but I think I've tried to sort of model how I share with some of those people where like I can still feel like I'm safe and comfortable, and I'm not, spreading myself out online in a way that feels like tricky for me, but I can still communicate in a way that's intimate. It's like a constant balance with like privacy and intimacy. And I'm always sort of I feel like internally I'm writing that balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like you said, I mean, that's a part of your truth. I think, you know, when one artist is like, my goal is to inspire, that is their being, my goal is to make them feel something, that is their being. So I think honoring exactly who you are and finding artists, like you said, that kind of align with who you are and see how they portray themselves in their content. I'm always like, what would Beyonce do? So, we all have
She doesn't scroll.
our examples,
We should all be
She does not scroll is Beyonce's primary rule of social media. And I try to think about that all the time when I start scrolling. I'm like, Beyonce said, don't do that. Don't scroll.
So we all have our examples that we kind of look at just to see, that align with who we are. So totally. Thank you for that vulnerability for sure.
Megan, that really resonates with me. And I know that, I come across as like a fairly exuberant, outgoing person, and I am, but I'm also one of those like secret introverts where I get along well with people and I love to like be bouncy and zany and out there, but I recharge by, privately and by being, quiet and alone. And also I have pretty serious boundaries around what I share online. Like there are parts of my house that I never show. There are like most of my house, so I have areas that are public and then areas of my life and my space that are absolutely private. I'm in a very long-term partnership with a person who is not on social media and has no interest in being seen publicly. So I never talk about my relationship. That really resonates with me. But I feel like because I choose a few areas of my life to share that are sort of my open spaces, and I just drill down on those, that I don't think most people think of me as somebody who's like private or has boundaries or is withholding. And when I'm making content, to answer your earlier question, what I've really been focusing on lately is to try and make everything I post either relaxing, relatable, or informative. Is that, and it's like I want each post to hit one of those three metrics. And if I can hit one of those three or more than one at once, then I feel like it's worth sharing. And that's more for like, Instagram, Facebook type posts. There's a whole other vibe over on YouTube.
Yeah, love it. And that's true. We'll dive into some of those things because there are differences in people's strategies based on what platform they're creating content for at that moment. So, now that we have our goal, like, we want to make sure that we know what we're posting for, why we want to post, and kind of what boundaries we've set for ourselves as artists. So with that already in our minds, already at our core, what is your go-to setup? We're like, all right, and this is if you do this, it's like, all right, I'm ready to create content. What is your gear? Like, what do you use to like create the content that comes on your feeds and various posts?
Oh, I'm off mute. It all depends, it all depends on what I'm feeling in that moment or, that day. Sometimes I'll get an idea right, as I'm going to create. Sometimes I'll get an idea ahead of time. So it all depends. Sometimes there's, like I mentioned earlier, if I feel like dancing, I'm going to dance. And a lot of times what I'll do, I'll either pull something from, back in the day, or I'll try to see if there's something that that I like or that I'm attracted to as far as like the different dances and all the TikTok things that's out. I love that whole TikTok culture. So there are some things that resonate with me and I'm like, okay, I want to try it. And so that means that it's just me. Maybe I'm dancing after a workout to promote cardiovascular health to my vocal students. Does that make sense? So I kind of like cross promote things sometimes. And that comes from, sometimes it, like I said, it happens right in a moment, or I'll get it like days in advance. So it could be a workout look. It could just be my iPhone on a tripod in my home, my living room, or sometimes I'll go and, kind of scout out a location. Like, guys, let me say this really quick, and so the next person can tap in. We have to, use our imagination. Like, there's so much beauty in our cities. I usually find beauty everywhere I go. There's something, there's a set, you know what I mean, that you can use. So sometimes I'll be driving and I'll be like, you know what? I'm going to shoot there one day. I don't know what it's going to be, but you know what I mean? So it could be that on a tripod with an iPhone, or, if it's on a more, kind of professional level, I'll go into an all-purpose studio. Sometimes I'll lay on the floor. I don't know. But yeah, there you go.
I love that. I think it's really important too to choose. We all kind of cross promote, like Stout was saying, but also like choosing which platforms you're going to focus on the most, primarily, right? Like some people are pretty good at it, but it's kind of difficult to be really good at like TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Like there's so many things that you have to choose which ones you're really gonna to go after, and then honestly also stay abreast of the changes in the algorithms, right? So Instagram, now they are pushing reels more. So if you're still posting like IGTV videos and pictures, they'll still get out there, but they're going to push reels more because they want to compete with TikTok. So it's like understanding how the algorithms are changing with the upgrades that they make. I just saw an article yesterday about Facebook is coming out with newsletters soon to compete with Twitter, who just bought a newsletter organization. And so that's going to help like independent writers. And so wanting to create your audience beforehand, like create that now so that when Facebook does roll out the newsletters, you're already ready. So just that's really important, to be honest, is like knowing what's coming down the pipeline and what the organizations want you to use, because they will champion you using that more and push your content further that way.
Great insight, for sure.
Very good.
Anybody else have a go-to setup? Sounds like the iPhone is winning.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, I mean, I've got a little home studio set up. I've got an interface. I've been sort of slowly improving my studio over the course of the past year at home. And I've got a few different microphones I can use for recording. I've got these $12 radio mics, like these mic stands that you can get on Amazon. So I always have a microphone like that I can just reach and pull over. And I have 2 of those on the back that have overhead mics. So I have all this stuff. I have a recording setup and a webcasting setup. But the tool that I use most for creating, hands down, is my iPhone. Absolutely. Because when I'm out in the world, that's what I'm taking pictures on. If I have a song idea, I have the one swipe button so that I can record a song idea or an essay idea. I have editing tools on that. So, I think that there's sometimes people can get held back because they think like, oh, I can't record. I can't start my vlog. I can't start my YouTube channel because I don't have, the X number of dollars to create. But I mean, most of us have some sort of small phone, and a phone can get you really far.
Love that. What you got?
Yeah. The best camera is the one in your hand. Like,
right. I wanted to mention too, real quick, the iRig has been a big help, especially last year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's been like a big help last year. You just plug it right into your phone so you can get that professional studio like sound, guys. So if you don't have one, get one of those ASAP.
And yes, definitely a hot ticket item. You couldn't find it for like a long time. So hopefully they're back in stock. Mm-hmm. Megan, did you have the iRig? We'll drop it in there for you guys. Oh, there you go. Megan, did you have something you wanted to add? I saw you popped off mute.
Oh, no. I mean, I just echo everyone, like iPhone, iRig. I edit a lot of movies on iMovie on my computer, but I also started editing I'm on the iMovie app on my phone, and it's better, honestly. So yeah, it doesn't take much. It doesn't. Awesome. It doesn't take a expensive gear, like
love it.
Everyone is saying. Like,
absolutely,
getting creative, and I think is the best part. I think like living in Brooklyn really taught me that. Living in New York, like you use what you got, and people make it work.
Yep. And just like Stout was saying, as you're on a drive, as you're on a walk, as you're exploring your city, you know, you can just see like, oh, I drove past this park and I really want to record there. Like start making notes and taking notes of spaces that you really loved and where you were, so you can go back and visit. Or whenever you're there, don't be afraid to pop out your iPhone and use what you got in that moment. Yeah, so that's amazing advice. Thanks, you guys. So we had a question that actually came in from Romney, and the question is, do you have a content calendar, and do you try to post a certain amount of times a day or a week? And that kind of really ties into the questions and ask about your content strategy. So thanks for that question, Romney. Anybody want to jump in on that one? What's
That's
that
really
strategy?
good. Content calendar. I started getting into scheduling or just like taking time to create a schedule, if that makes sense. Maybe like, of course, during the pandemic, I'll be honest with you guys, because, clearly we were all limited to our phones and just creating digital content. So it made it easier for me to kind of plan out, what I was going to do that week. And I noticed that the rollout definitely kind of turned in. I started reaching more accounts because of how I was rolling it out. So yeah, I do have, I maybe not a calendar, but I just kind of go by, do it weekly. I'll say to myself, okay, maybe I know I want to do this dance. I want to do that dance. And then I want to do a singing video. Then I want to freestyle. So I'll kind of take those 4 ideas and figure out how I'm going to roll them out over the week. So to answer the question, I think it's good to have organization, but then also leave room to just be free and kind of flow in the moment, because I've noticed this. I came a long ways, you guys. I got my little followers, organically. I didn't buy anything. I remember when I would just be kind of like in my church, just like kind of practicing loops and stuff like that. People love that. They love, the professional content, having like concept videos and stuff like that. They love that too, but they love when I'm just like kind of home and kind of just like this with a mic in my hand and looping. So leave room, to freestyle or just be free. But also, yeah, have that, try to build a little schedule.
I love that you said that too, because I typically plan, sometimes I'll do series, like a jump series. I have like a traditional jump pose in different countries, and or I'll do like just showing all pretty doors or just something random. But maybe it's like yesterday was St. Patty's Day. So I, deviated from my series or my plan that I had scheduled. So I love like the spontaneity that you're saying, just to be creative and allow yourself to post really what you're feeling. Or if something's going on in the news and you feel, compelled to really call that out or share that, then that resonates with a lot of viewers or your audience as well, because they want to hear about, once they start following you and people really tapped into your content, they want to know what your thoughts are about current topics. So that's really important as well, just to have that option to be spontaneous as well, for sure.
Let me say this too, about, I think the attendee asked about how many times. I will say this, you guys, because she mentioned earlier about how Instagram is really pushing reels. They are. So the thing is, if you're, like she said, if you're posting pictures and like IGTVs, and then you're doing multiple posts, what I notice, a lot of your followers or viewers, they kind of get less interested. So it is good to space it out if you can. That's one thing I wanted to point out. Space it out if you can. Give everybody a chance to breathe and kind of take in what you did yesterday. You know what I mean? And then if you feel like you got to post that day, again, maybe it's late at night or something like that. Just a little tidbit, because sometimes I'll try things. I was doing a series of like doing 3 of the same area, but different poses. And I did notice how, the interest would decline, if that makes sense. And that's okay, but I was just trying it out to see how and when people were getting, to see the footage. So boom, there's that. Let me shut up.
Oh no, that was incredible insight. And it kind of rolls into the next question that I had around, what do your viewers, your fans, your audience, what do they respond to? Like, I feel like everybody's kind of fan base is a bit different. So what is it that you post that you find your fans are like loving or like really responsive to or interacting with? looks like you had something you wanted to bring in, Rebecca. You were like,
Yeah, well, I was still thinking about content calendars, and I was just going to say that I have actually struggled with maintaining a content calendar because I've gone through phases where I try and I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this really efficiently, and I'm going to think of all my posts for this week or the next 2 weeks and get all of that content together so I can roll it out. But I find that I'll have my content calendar and I'll be executing it. And then 6 days in, I'll just randomly be staring up at the sky and some idea will pop in my head randomly. I'll take the photo, I'll post the caption, and for me, often that's the thing that really connects. So I've had trouble generating authentic content that connects as well as my weird spontaneous ideas, and then coming up with the content calendar and getting all that content together started to feel like homework, like a really big chunk of work rather than just like spontaneous moments. So I've flunked out of influencer school, basically, is what I'm saying. I'm still trying to figure out how to do this in a way that's like respectful to my time boundaries and my mental health and my other important work I have to be doing, that requires time and focus, but also gets my social media act together. So this is all very inspiring. And we repeat the question. I had an answer to it, but I've forgotten what it was.
oh yeah, no worries at all. And actually, I'm gonna shift because you said something
Sure.
about like I flunked influencer school. And I think that like I think that even as artists, like there are so many different like buzzwords and kind of content strategy lanes. And as an artist, like you are like your artistry is your heart and your soul. So I'm sure it's difficult to like stick to a plan because you evolve, you change, like you get inspired by a random poster or staring at the sky. So you need that room to really just be who you are because that's where your creativity comes from, that's where your music comes from, all those things. So it's not even the same as like just a blanket influencer that's talking about their lifestyle or whatever. So I think that like sometimes us as artists, we're really hard on ourselves and we want to do everything like perfectly to ensure that we're doing all we can to grow. But also, we forget that we're human and that is a part of the beauty of our art. So like, leaving room for being human and leaving room to connect in that way instead of trying to be as like brand conscious as, some,
Right.
like you said, influencers are. So thank you for for saying that. I feel like, a lot of people resonate with flunking influencers for sure. Yeah, so the question that I initially had was, what do your fans resonate with, which you touched on,
Oh,
which was some of your
sure.
spontaneous posts, but in
Yeah,
general, like,
spontaneous posts, weird stories. They're very selfie oriented. They can't help themselves. I mean, and it's like, I think somebody told me, I'm in the music industry, and someone told me a long time ago that if you're selling CDs at shows, people always want to connect with other people. And so as a business recommendation, someone recommended to always put my face on my album covers. Sometimes artistically, that's not what you're in the mood for. Some people think it's outright cheesy. I do it every time because what I have seen is that if a human being is looking at 4 album covers on a table and 3 of them are beautiful, iconic pieces of artwork, and one of them is like a decent photo of a human being's face, they're going to reach out and grab the one with the human face on it to check it out first because we're people. We want to connect with each other at like a very primal level. And so in that way, I think that feeds over into social media. Like I can take the most beautiful like sunset photo or still life photo or, picture of my puppy or whatever. But although my puppy's pretty popular, I'm not going to lie, on my Instagram. But what people really tend to respond to is just like a weird picture of my face with like a question underneath. Like every time. That's what, for me, gets the highest interaction, no matter how much I try other stuff.
love that.
My audience resonates with everything I think is not going to be great. Like, I'm like, oh, let me just post it really quick, like this thing, and they love it. I'm like, what? And then the things that I think are going to like be amazing, not so much. They also really resonate with video because I feel like a lot of times I'm sharing my travels. I might say, oh, I'm at the Cliff some more. Everybody check this out. Or I'm over here doing this. It's more like a postcard. But when I speak or like my stories, or if I share a poetry, like a poem video, that's them feeling like they're talking to me more, they're getting to know me more, or they maybe resonate with a piece in the poem or something that was said or felt. And I think they resonate with that more than anything.
I love that.
Yeah. My folks, they resonate with, I mentioned this earlier, just like the home videos. They love that. They love when I'm sitting in the corner figuring out a loop. They love when I'm figuring out a Cardi B dance. You know what I mean? It just shows, like, for me, honestly, like we talked about spontaneity. That's like really, I resonate with that. I love being spontaneous. And sometimes it's like, I'm going to show you this move and it might not be perfect, you know, the up dance, you know, whatever. I was trying to figure it out and it wasn't perfect, but the energy of it, people just loved it. So they love when I'm just trying things out and I'm at home and I'm giving that energy. And like she said, video, they love, 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 love video presentation too. So again, if I'm home or if it's live performance, they're really attracted to video.
Awesome. Love that. Megan, did you?
Yeah, I've been putting a lot of my energy lately into Patreon. I started a Patreon page a year ago, and a big sort of inspiration for me was that I wanted to find the people to have really intimate conversations with that wanted that. I didn't want to just feel like I was shouting. Again, this like speaks to my personality and like, you know, safety and content and stuff. I don't know if anyone else resonates with this, but it's like I want to talk to people who are listening. Like I want to play gigs where people are listening. Like I'd rather play a 15-person listening room than a 20-person bar gig or a 200-person bar gig, like hands down. And it's taken me a long time to realize that about myself. But now that I do, it's like really fun to talk to people where I know we're having an intimate conversation. So I've been putting out content. I've been focusing a lot of content on Patreon lately that's behind the scenes of making my new record. And I feel like it's really fun for me to be like, hey, I'm going to show you this, you know, I'm going to show you sort of how this works. Because again, like I want to see, I know that I want to see that in my favorite artists. So that's what people seem to be resonating with lately, like having a little bit of sneak peek into how things are made. And I've been enjoying making content for people that have, you know, I know that they want it because they're on that platform. So I'd say, like, you know, if you have these, you know, people watching or whatever, like, doesn't have to be Patreon, but any platform where you just know people are engaged, like maybe it's just even your email list. People really like reading your updates and stuff. Like finding the place where you know people are listening, it just always feels better and it makes me want to put out more intimate content, I suppose.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. And I feel like it really resonates with what everyone was saying. Like, it seems that your fans want this stuff that like makes them feel closer to you and makes them feel like they're like right there in that moment, not that it was planned. They just want to like feel like they just caught you, you know, outside at a store, or like they're, you know, they just so happen to get a glimpse into what you're actually up to, what your day actually looks like, what your creation process looks like. And that I think is like such a beautiful thing to know that like, you know, all of you have fans that really just connect with you on a human level, and your artistry is a plus. So they are like, I'm riding for you, and the things that you create is just like icing on the cake. So that's incredible. And Megan, I think you kind of like did a perfect segue, which is wonderful. I need y'all on every panel like to segue into questions. But you have talked a lot about Patreon. Do you all have like a specific platform that you love creating content for? And if so, why that particular platform?
Patreon. I'm just gonna say it one more time and then I'm gonna mute myself. But it's just like I love creating content for people who I know want it. That, like, hands down, like that is so fulfilling for me because it's a two-way conversation now. It's moved to a two-way conversation. So that's my answer.
Love that.
I'd say Instagram. We got a love thing going on. Me and Instagram, we really have a nice relationship. Like I been building with them for some years, and I feel like I'm kind of like a partner with them almost, you know. That's just like with anything, you know. If you have a friend and you're there for them and they're there for you, you're gonna kind of want to take them with you, or they're gonna reach out to you when they think of something. And I feel like that's the kind of relationship that I built with Insta. But a lot of my followers are there on that platform, and a lot of them come to the shows. A lot of them buy the music. So And, although Instagram's algorithms, like she, said that, they change back and forth, I don't know. I just still like that little home place. I'm going to try out Twitch though. I heard Twitch is like I think it's called Twitch and Discord or something like that. Is like the new place to be. But for now it's Instagram.
I'll say I love Instagram as well. I like YouTube too, because I feel like YouTube is so universal. Everybody just goes on YouTube and searches anything and they can find you organically, randomly. And I love that about YouTube. I feel like Instagram is a little bit more, you have to know like who you're looking for sometimes, depending on keywords and things like that. But I love Instagram. I saw another question about Clubhouse. I'm on Clubhouse. It's still quite new for me. I like it. I wouldn't say I love it yet. That's just my personal opinion. I think if you're hosting a room and you're having really positive conversation, that's great. But if you're just jumping into rooms, I haven't found that as fulfilling for myself on the Clubhouse platform. But I do appreciate that it exists, and I'm always open to trying different platforms. And I saw one other question about promoting, and I'll just say something about that and then go on mute. But I have paid to promote on Instagram before, and it got me a ton of likes, but not a lot of followers. And so you don't really want likes. I mean, likes are nice, but you're really looking for the followers, for the engagement. I would recommend if you're going to pay for promotion, to promote on Facebook. So I like to create on Instagram, but I love to share to Facebook because it's the demographic, right? So like my mom, all the grandmothers are on Facebook and they make money. They've had jobs. They support. Instagram is more your millennials, then you have TikTok or the younger. So it depends on what audience, in my opinion, that you're going for on the platform that you want to commit to. So hopefully that's helpful for somebody.
I love that insight. And thanks for grabbing some of the questions from the chat as well, Rebecca.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I've been really curious about Twitch recently, and a friend recently recommended a book called Twitch for Musicians, and it's a website, twitchformusicians.com, that I've been starting to read, and I don't know that lady who wrote it or anything, but I've been diving into that, and in case anybody else is starting at zero on Twitch like I am, I think that might be a helpful resource. As far as which platform I enjoy the most, I mean, I do on social media, I enjoy Instagram most as a user and as a poster. I do agree with Stephanie that Facebook is frustratingly more effective sometimes, even though that website is badly broken and is going to die pretty soon, in my opinion. And for that reason, because I don't trust Mark Zuckerberg any further than I can throw him, and I don't want him to be in charge of my relationships with my fans and friends anymore, I've been looking out to other platforms. So I jumped on YouTube pretty heavily in the fall. I started a YouTube show about what goes on behind the scenes in the life of a hardworking independent musician. And that's been really fun. It's been interesting to work with a platform that wants people to see your content. It's like, what a concept. So that's been cool. But I agree with Megan that like my truest, deepest love is Patreon. I've been on that platform since 2017. And I thought when I started my Patreon page that I was just starting a new possible revenue stream. Like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to make a stable income for the first time in my adult life? Like, yeah, that would be great. So I thought about it very much in monetary terms, and I really like attacked it, very methodically on my launch and on how I built my following there. But what I found almost immediately was that the emotional impact of performing for a concentrated group of my audience that are the most diehard, the most interested, and are not being blocked from me by any kind of algorithm whatsoever. Like it felt like a direct pipeline from my heart to theirs. And it made me feel giddy. And I wrote more songs in that first 6 months on Patreon than I had in like the 3 years prior, because suddenly I had a concentrated audience of people who wanted to hear that stuff, and it was thrilling. So I'm a huge, as the kids would say, stan. I'm a stan for Patreon. I'm super into it. Do I sound young? Cool.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I mean, if I wasn't already like really looking at Patreon, I'm looking at it now. Like that direct connection from their heart to mine or my heart to
yeah.
like, what? That is yes, and yes.
I have a
I
link
love
I can
all of this.
share. This is absolutely no pressure. But over lockdown, I wrote an ebook outlining my timeline that I used for my launch because I got so many questions from musician friends about launching. And it's free. It's on my website. It's an absolutely free download. So I can share that in the comments if anybody in the chat, if anybody is, I have to look that up. That just popped in my head. That would have been smart to look up before this thing
Oh
started.
no, yeah. And we'll
Just
also
occurred to me.
include that in the post email that you all
Cool.
will get as well. But yeah, it's
All
totally.
right, here, I've got that link here.
I'm gonna ask
Yeah.
one more question before we jump into the Q&A because folks have some questions they want some answers to. So we talked a bit at the beginning about, you know, different platforms and like the things that you post on specific platforms because of either the algorithm or Megan and Rebecca because of that emotional connection that you have with, you know, the people on that particular platform. But my question is, how do you, or do you have any advice for artists that are looking to kind of use similar content and just like tweak it a bit for, you know, these other things instead of like having to recreate or create new content like for every platform? Do you have any suggestions on how they can like tweak some things that they've already got posted on Instagram for Patreon, or for, you know, how can these kind of work together without exhausting the artist?
I can speak to that a little bit. I will often, especially like crossing between Facebook and Instagram and even my email list and Patreon, is that I'll edit like a full video, you know, of a behind the scenes thing. And then I'll edit down to like a 15-second teaser, so to speak. And sometimes it's, you know, it's not, it's like real content, you know, like I'm actually posting like a chorus of a song or something. So it's still content for Instagram. It's just that, you know, I made the video once, like I recorded it, Pro Tools edited, whatever, and I just made 2 versions of it. A long version for patrons who want the full experience, and then the 15 or 20-second version for people who are just scrolling.
I love that.
And I've found that that's been really great for me to sort of make one video once and then chop it down. And I've even used it for like a paid ad. Like there's like a 3-minute version on Patreon, a 15-second version on Instagram, and a 30-second paid ad version on Facebook, something like that.
Love that strategy. Definitely. Anybody else have any advice on morphing your content?
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing as Megan just explained. You know, you'll take something, you know, just I basically echo that, you know. But then again, we come back to just being yourself and being kind of free to flow. So, you know, if it's something particular, like I'm not on Twitter, but sometimes I'll jump on there and I realize Twitter has, every platform has a different vibe and it's a different world. But it's just really just about what you want to bring to those worlds or how you want to create a world within it, because we do have that power. So, you know, it's just about, you know, again, taking a video and putting it on Instagram, you know, a 30-second snippet. Hey, go to YouTube. The full video is on YouTube. You know what I mean? You could do the same thing on Twitter. Maybe on Twitter, you're making jokes or you're just creating banter on Twitter about what you just posted, or you know what I mean? So I think, guys, the most important thing too is just to be intentional. If you're going to be bouncing from, you know, the different platforms on one day or whatever, just be intentional. And I think it'll come easier that way. I think a lot of times, Kristen, you said that earlier, you know, we kind of put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be perfect or to look this way or blah, 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 blah. I think what helps me is I look at social media as a part of my artistry, because it is a huge part of our world, you know, for those that want to utilize it for business or whatever, or exposure artistry. So I look at it as my profession. That's how I look at it. So I get joy, like, okay, I plan my day, and sometimes I don't plan my day. Sometimes it might be a lazy video. I don't know, but I guess it's just really perspective. If you just have a certain perspective and have a certain intention, it'll come easy to you. It really will.
I love that.
Yeah, one other thing I want to add quickly. One of the, we haven't talked too much about LinkedIn, but I love LinkedIn. I actually like really love it just because it's kind of a quiet. it's a quiet platform and we don't talk about a lot, but the engagement is very high on LinkedIn, and it depends on what you wanted it for. So for example, as a poet, I try to get more corporate gigs recently, and just to see if I could, right? So I've spoken for PepsiCo, I've spoken for Frito-Lay, for Chegg, and you know, they have corporate sponsor, they have corporate money to pay you. So maybe that same poem you're doing for $150 at an open mic, you could get 2,000 for, you know, from PepsiCo. And so LinkedIn is really good for that if you're looking to tap into the corporate side of the business as an artist or with your art form. So that's just another call out that I would say. But there's also apps for that. I wish I had an app to let you guys know, but there are apps that they've created where you can make something and then it will change it to make it more applicable for whatever platform you're going to share it to. So they'll say, oh, you can make this one post and we'll make it, you know, how it's supposed to be for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook separately.
I love that. Definitely hitting Google after this to find these apps. And that was great on LinkedIn. I don't think, definitely underutilized platform. Rebecca, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of piggyback on all of this because this is my favorite topic. I love creating something and using it as many different ways as possible. That's always my goal when I make anything, is to try and get as much out of it as I can, because I'm fundamentally lazy and I just like to, not have to do too much extra work. So for me, what that means is I do a lot of cover videos on my YouTube for my patrons, which was never really part of my career prior to starting my Patreon page, but I wanted to make something special for my patrons, but I want to use it as much as I can. So what that's turned into for me is that I'll have a day with good camera, lights, everything. I'll record 4 or 5 cover videos. I change clothes and move the background around in between each one. And then I roll them out once a month, trying to make it look like I did it, on different days. And I will put credits at the end of the video thanking my patrons so that it feels special and unique to them, but then make it, after a little while of being exclusive on Patreon, then I make it public on YouTube, and I'm building up my followers there, and then also put in a lot of search terms in hopes that, like, Rebecca Loebe singing whatever Bob Dylan song will get me in front of people who are searching for that particular Bob Dylan song. I also released the audio on Patreon, and then after about 2 years of doing this, I took all of the audio tracks and had them mastered as a CD. So now I have what it's called Secondhand Songs Volume 1, which is a covers album, which I give away for free for people who sign up for my newsletter. And then I have those videos rolling out on Facebook as targeted and retargeted paid ads. And once people watch those videos, if they watch the whole thing, they get a retargeted ad for my newsletter in order to get the free album download. And that brings them into my marketing funnel and hopefully makes them my best friend for life. And then also I put those videos up on Instagram on my IGTV, or chop them up to put them in my grid. So those are all the ways I can think of to, like, get mileage out of one day of sitting still and recording a few cover songs.
By the way,
And
all that coming from a person who just said she was fundamentally lazy. Like, Loebe is like the hardest working, smartest, most logical musician I know. Like, every time she talks, I'm like, I gotta take notes. Like, just do again.
You're so sweet.
And in general, speaking of taking notes, you guys, I know that there's a lot of jewels being dropped here, a lot of advice. So this video will be available on YouTube for you guys to watch again, share with your friends, sit down with a pen and paper, jot down all the things that you need. I know I will be rewatching and jotting down some notes for sure. So just didn't want anyone to panic with all these, like, amazing tips coming in really fast. This will be available to, really fully digest. Yeah, so I mean, this has been incredible. I'm gonna jump in. We're gonna do like a fire round of, like, Q&A. So, like, quick answer to get as many as we can out of this Q&A. They seem to be, like, super, super interested in a few questions. So does anyone know if the iRig works on Android phones? I'm sure, I have an iPhone, so I'm not completely sure, but I feel like it should. I don't think it's, like, phone specific. So if anybody has any firsthand experience.
I definitely think so, because the to go in is it's like a headphone jack. So yeah.
Boom. Quick. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Talking about strategy for Instagram. Do you work with Instagram analytics, and is it helpful? Like, are the insights helpful regarding demographics, geographics, and any other analytical information that is available in there? Do you guys use those at all?
Sure do.
Yeah.
It is helpful.
Do you find it helpful?
Yeah.
Awesome. So dive into those analytics, y'all. Go ahead.
I think it's most helpful for figuring out what time of day your audience is super active and when your posts are going to hit hardest. It's later in the day than you think.
Right. And random days too sometimes. Awesome. Do you ever feel as though interacting with social media impacts your mental health? If so, do you have any strategies for dealing with this?
Absolutely.
Yes, it affects my mental health adversely, and I take secret breaks frequently where I will have a friend change my passwords to something that I don't know, and I will go for weeks without logging in. And if I have something that I want to post, I just text it to him and he posts it for me. And that's what I do when I'm really trying to write or really need a break.
Yeah,
I would say yes. There's also an app. Sorry, I have all the apps and none of the app names. I'm so sorry. There's an app where you can not see your scroll, like your page. So you can like still interact, you can still post, but you wouldn't actually scroll. And they say comparison is the thief of joy, which all of us are guilty of sometimes. So I think it's great to utilize that sometimes just to discipline yourself, right? Still promoting yourself, still putting your content out there, but not necessarily looking at what everyone else is doing when you're in the house during a pandemic. So.
Love that.
Correct.
I have a social media timer on my phone, and I force myself, once I hit it every day, it's like, I'm done. I have to be done. It's like 15 minutes, I think. Which is still a lot of time. You think about it.
I think someone mentioned earlier about, well, I think Christian said that, like, what would Beyonce do? Beyonce doesn't scroll, right? I do that too. I have my moments where or days where I will not scroll because I just kind of want to keep my canvas clear, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to see what everybody else is doing. And then there's days where I'm just kind of relaxing and I want to scroll a little bit. So take breaks often.
Awesome. And I would also suggest to really curate your timeline and your feed, like follow things that inspire you, because I mean we do fall kind of down the loophole of like just seeing this thing that makes you want to scroll. So like I'm all about architecture, visual arts, nature, things that really inspire me and bring me joy, so that when I do scroll I see things that make me feel good. And I know all of my friends' Instagram, so I can just go to them, you know what I mean? I have my friends' numbers, so things like that, don't follow just out of like guilt or out of you know pressure. Really curate what you see and what you choose to bring into your space. Awesome. So we have another question. Do you use any online tools to track your engagement with your audience, like Google Analytics, and do you see the benefits? I know you all use Instagram Analytics, but do you use anything outside of that?
I use TubeBuddy on YouTube.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I need to dive into those as well. What have you found to be the most effective way to gain new followers? That's a huge question.
Consistency. And trying new things and not being afraid, trying new things, consistency and authenticity.
Love that.
Authenticity is huge. Some of the best advice I got for music one time, a long time ago, was don't be afraid to turn off a lot of people. Like, don't be afraid to make music that is targeted at a really specific niche. Because if you can get 1% of people who hear your music, or by extension see your posts or whatever, like 1% of people to absolutely love it and be willing to walk to the ends of the earth for you, to go see you perform or hear your poems or go to your show, that 1% is enough to build an enormous career. But if everyone who hears it is like, oh, that's pretty good, or everyone who sees your post is like, oh, that's a cute picture, that's fine, but doesn't feel like personally, like emotionally engaged by what you're doing, like you're not gonna build much. So
that makes total sense. Awesome. We have time for 2 more questions. We're gonna run through this. One is, if a brand reaches out to you and asks for a cooperation or a collaboration, what would be the most important things for you, like that you would want that brand to like add to your, I guess, life or your image, or what would you be expecting? What would you ask for? It's a good question. Me, I'm all about the hats. Give me free hats. That sounds silly, but like, give me some things that like align with my brand, But
I think it definitely we have to be aligned. It has to make sense. you know? So for me, you know, if it's a brand, I love fashion. I think we all do, but I really, 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 truly love fashion. So if they're reaching out, it has to be something that goes along with my taste, you know, otherwise it's not going to make sense, you know, or if it's a, you know, a software company, maybe it's something with looping, you know what I mean? So what sparks my interest is just like, do I like this company? What I purchase from them? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely. Awesome. Well, it looks like we have run out of time. I was not truthful with the 2 question time, sorry guys. But this has been incredible. Thank you all so much. Happy Women's History Month for real. This is like a powerhouse panel of women that are doing incredible things and, just honoring all the women out there rocking it and doing it and just existing. But thank you, Stephanie, Joseph Vessel James. Thank you, Megan Bird. Thank you, Stout. Thank you, Rebecca Loebe. You guys are incredible. Thank you for sharing all that information and all these wonderful tidbits for the audience. I mean, this was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. You're an awesome host.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Nice to meet you, ladies. I'm getting ready to follow all of you.